On his way home, he did not know that the same Okoludo, the war leader of Akweze he saved, hid himself, knowing that he will go to keep his charms there, and he will be coming back without any protection. He went and hid himself somewhere around the bush. Immediately he finished, on his way coming back, he shot him from the back. Okoludo shot my great-grandfather. Suddenly something happened. Ojiako entered and looked at his father and called him, "Father, is this wound, this bullet going to kill you?" He couldn't talk because he was in pains. He called him again, "Father, if this wound, this bullet wound that Okoludo gave you kills you, that he, Ojiako, his son, will bury him with the head of Okoludo." The aim was to study, to know when they will get where his weak point is, so that they know how to strike. They stayed there for 4 days. Within that 4 days, they then discovered that there was a very particular market days when his girlfriend comes to visit. And then they discovered he had 4 dogs that stays at the 4 corners of his compound. And then they waited for another market day. That same market day, the woman came again. And then that was the day they striked. Welcome, gentlemen. I am Prince Samuel Chizoba Ojiako. By my right here is my uncle, Prince Dr. Benedict Ogbuefi Ojiako. On my left is my cousin brother, it's my cousin, Prince George Chukwudobelu Ojiako. Should I? Okay, so today we welcome you guys coming into our noble palace today. You see, this is a royal home that has lasted for a whole long time. It has lasted for a very long time. It's been centuries. You see, our grandfather, His Royal Majesty Ogbuefi Ojiako Ezenne, who once sat on this throne here. Yes, this throne right here now is my grandfather, his grandfather, and his father. He was my father's father. That makes him my grandfather, and his father's father. He was a great man. He was born, by estimate, according to the colonial administrator John Ross, by his estimate, he said our grandfather was born 1857. And then what we know about him is that he died 1944. And then from birth, he was born as a noble. He was born noble because being born by, then in those days, around this our area, we don't have what we call kings. What we have is Onyisi. And for you to, Onyisi meaning the head. And for you to be the head, something has to prompt it. You see, so what really prompted that is because we held, until today we still hold, that ofo. It is a staff of authority. It is called ofo ozopala. This ofo ozopala is from our progenitor. Nobody even know the very first persons that held it, but it transcended down to our ancestors from the time we were able to have the names, like to Opale Kili, down to Okotu. So, and then down to our great-great-grandfathers, Ezana, Amagomilo, Ezana, Eza Amagomilo. From there, it moved to Ezana, Ezanekwe. From there, so it moved to Ezenne, Ezanekwe. And from Ezenne, Ezanekwe, it moved to Ogbuefi Ojiako Ezenne. So, by birth, he was a noble. He was royal. And then, as a young boy, he had other brothers because their father married, Ezenne being his father, my own great-grandfather, married 3 wives. And so, among the 3 wives, The other wives had her own children, and then my own grandfather's mother is Onunuaku by name. Onunuaku gave birth to many daughters, and then Ogbuefi Ojiako Ezenne, and lastly Nnolime Ezenne as the only brother from his mother's loin. And then he had other brothers as step-brothers. Then, as kids, they started growing, and as kids that were born in a royal home, things were okay, things were rosy, they were moving. But something happened that brought a turning point in the family. And like they used to say, like our fathers used to say in those days, they said, in every royal dynasty, there comes a time when it is being shaken, but it never falls. Like the Igbo says, Ogbu ada ada. Kama omanyacha ka nkwụ ọkwụlụkwa. So ogbu anyị adanuru ada, or omanyacha ọkwụlụkwa, as we were told and as we have always seen. So it happened that the turning point was that our great grandfather, which is Ogbuefi Ojiako Ezenne's father, Ezenne Ezanekwe, was the Onyisi, being the holder of Ozo Tochasela Adazi, the oldest Ozo in Adazi, which is an instrument of authority in Adazi, called Ofozo Bala. And at the same time, the warlord and war leader of Adazi-Nnukwu. So he had other warlords he goes to war with. So something happened sometime during their days. A man called Eze-Nnukwu died, and they were supposed to go to bury him, to pay him the funeral rites. And as warlords used to do, when they get to where they are burying or performing the funeral rites of one of their own, they exercise who they are, what they are capable of doing, what they have done. They will call his name. Like they will say, as I say it, I am shaken with goose pimples. They will be calling their friend, calling their fellow warlord. Did you remember the one we encountered in so place? What we did there, what you did there, what you did there. In the process, they will just go dance. As they are saying it, they will be dancing and showing their powers, showing what they were able to do. And then they will get to the other person's presence. They will shoot. They will release their gun. But then what they used to do is, before they move, they will tell their children to go and check their guns and remove every bullet from it and just fill it with load it with gunpowder, so that they will just go there. When they shoot, it will just be the dust. There will be no bullets, so there will be no casualty. But unfortunately, the eldest son of Ezenne, that is my great grandfather, senior brother to Ogbuefi Ojiako Ezenne, his name was Aneto. Ezenne asked him to remove those, check his gun, remove the bullets in it, and fill the gunpowder, which they will use to go to the compound of Eze-Nnukwu to go and bury him, to go and perform their funeral rites. So he did that, but unfortunately he did not do it entirely. Maybe for one reason or the other, he forgot to remove the entire bullets in the gun, in the rifle, and then he loaded the gunpowder. So by the time they got there, it was time for them to display as warriors. So this other man was there, called Ogbuefi. Ogbuefi was there. He was dancing and performing. Ezenne, our great grandfather, was there performing as well. And they were calling their names, telling themselves, do you remember what we did there? Do you remember what we did, So then Ezenne danced and got to Ogbuefi's presence, pointed his gone to the ground and shot. Lo and behold, unfortunately, bullets came out and killed Ogbuefi Ezenne. And everywhere went quiet. That was the turning point our ancestors experienced in our family. So when it happened, before the man died, before Ogbuefi Ezenne died, he called his kinsmen. There is something we call Ekwankwochu in Adazi-Nnukwu. It is a tradition. Ekwankwochu means when you kill somebody, maybe whether by mistake, whether deliberate or indeliberate, it is a culture. That family has the right to come to your family to destroy, to take whatever they want. And whatever they take there belongs to them from that day. And no one can take it from them anymore. And whatever they destroy there, they will not repair. And they will not be held responsible. So the man knew instantly that such thing might happen to Ezenne, his friend, his fellow warlord. And he called his kinsmen and told them that Ezenne, his friend, was not aware of this, that he didn't do it deliberately, that he was with him eating and drinking in his house, in Ezenne's house, when he called his son, Aneto, his eldest son, and told him to go and remove those bullets in his gun and fill it with gunpowder. That they should not go for Ekwankwochu in Ezenne's compound. Instead, they should sell Aneto, but they should not go for Ekwankwochu in his compound, because that his friendship with him, that he was sure that he was not involved, he was not aware of what happened to him. So after that, he died. Shortly after his death, the family came from Nkwochu. That kinsman came from Nkwochu to our royal palace. The essence was that of Ozokpala that makes us the head of the town. That was the essence of their coming for the Ekwankwochu. So on that fateful day, I know when they want to do these kind of things, they don't tell you, they don't give you notice. You will just see them, surprisingly. So by the time they started, they were advancing to his home, to the house of Ezenne. He saw it, and whoever they meet and kills, nobody says anything about it. That they won't be held responsible. It's part of the Ekwankwochu. So Ezenne escaped immediately. His family members escaped, including little Ojiako. By estimate, was about 9 years then when this happened. So by the time they all ran off from the compound, Ogbuefi Ojiako Ezenne, the little Ojiako then, remembered the stories his father used to tell them about what made them the senior citizen in the town, the head of the town, that of Ozokpala, that staff of authority. And then he ran back in the face of danger. He ran, the little Ojiako ran back, climbed where they kept those things. It's just like this type of things you see here now. It was here. He climbed, looked for that very one and took it away. He knew he cannot run away from the compound with it. But once they see it with him, they will catch him. He's a small boy. They will catch him and collect it from him. So he ran to the well. We call it Ome, the local well. He ran to the local well and threw it inside it and then ran off. So when those family came in, what they just did was destroyed things and then went straight to the Obu, the palace, and took the entire pack of those symbols there, believing that what they were looking for is in there, and they took it and left. So by the time they left, everywhere went calm. Later, Ezenne came back and started crying. His father came back and started crying and said what he did not even know. His father, his own father, Amagomilo, that bequeathed it to him, did not even know the very first person from our lineage that held it. But it never got lost. Then it got to his own time and it got lost. It shifted to another family. It got lost to another family. He was crying. And then little Ojiako walked in and asked his father, "Nna, why are you crying?" He told him the story. He said, "Is it that of Ozopala that used to tell us the story about?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Yes, that when those people came in, that all of them ran out, that he remembered it and found his way back, went and took it and threw it inside Omi, and then inside the well, and left." Ezenne said, "What did you say?" He repeated it. Ezenne went to the Omi, that is the well, and entered the well, searched for it, saw it, and came out with it. So that was the first sign Ojiako showed him that there was something about him. He started watching him. That was one. Then, after that incident, it was imminent, according to customs, that he would go on exile for 7 years. Because though it was ascertained that he did not kill him deliberately, it was a custom. Once a blood is shed by you, deliberately or indeliberately, you have to leave the town for 7 years as atonement. So he left for Agukunri, to our relation in Agukunri. And then, but something happened in the process. The very day they came in for that Ekwankwochu, they took away his last daughter, Ogbuefi, and sold her out. But then the spirit that God has instilled, deposited in the family, followed her. So God and the gods of our land followed her. I will get to her. So by the time Ezenne left in Aguku, he stayed in Aguku in exile, and then his family scattered. The daughters, those unmarried, were taken away in hiding, because then, once the backbone is not around to protect, just like the chicken protecting the chicks, the next thing you will see is slave traders. They will start taking away the family members. So they took away the children, hid them in different places of their relations. Then Ojiako, as a little boy then too, knew there was danger. So he left. He went to Aguku as well, and joined one of his cousins called by name Okeko Bosi. He's a popular man in Aguku. He went to Okeko Bosi, who was a merchant in Mbamili. We call it Mbamili then, which is this Otuocha Anaku area. He followed him and went to Anaku, where he lived. That was where he stayed. That was where, along the line, he was there. On one occasion, he was just like an apprentice to his cousin, who was already a merchant. So one day he took him out to Egwonwa, where they do Egwonwa, and then there was this wrestling competition. And the champions, by the time the whole champions fought and the last man standing looked around and saw him, went and challenged him to a fight. Surprisingly, he had never fought before. But surprisingly, he won. He landed the champion to the ground. And then other champions came. He landed about 2 of them again to the ground. And then he became a champion. Then people of Mbamili now believed that he had a charm for him to be able to land that very champion of champions to the ground, which they said by record nobody had ever done it before, that he must have a charm. But Ojiako never had any charm for wrestling. In fact, by story we heard, he was never a wrestler. So by the time they came to him, in his intelligence, he admitted. So when they come to him and ask him, "We need this so that we can go and win a wrestling match," he will give them something and collected money. And with the faith they had in him that his charm was why he won, they will go and win. And so he started making money from it. And then from what he learned from his fathers, rainmaking, over there, they don't know about it. So he started teaching them. At the same time, learning the trade of his cousin, whom he followed to Anako. So it took them a few years. It took him like 3-4 years. And then he decided to come home. He became so homesick and decided to come home. But within that period, there was a war in Akweze, our neighboring town, one of our neighboring towns. So this war was, as the war was going on between our town, Obeledu, and Akweze, the war was going on. And then at a point, Adazi-Nnukwu, as a town, discovered that they could not do any marching part without their war leader, Ezenne, which is my great-grandfather, Ojiako's father. So they asked him to come back. They performed some ritual, the way they used to do it for the atonement. They did, because he didn't stay up to that 7 years again. The town needed their leader to come home because there was a war about to swallow them. So he came back. They performed the rituals as they do it, and then he was able to come back. And then took his leaders, took his team, his fellow warlords, and they went into war with Akweze. They fought the war, won the war, and Adazi-Nnukwu, my town, got the victory. But something happened. The leader, the war leader of Akweze, by name Okoludo. Okoludo was a very great, feared war leader from Akweze. But his mother is from Adazi-Nnukwu. So by the time they subdued the Akweze war soldiers, and then the next aim was to capture their war leader, because they have fallen. They have advanced them. And then Ezenne told them no, that this is Nwadiana. That is a son of their sister, because Okoludo's mother is from Adazi-Nnukwu. He said no. Instead, he got him, captured him, and assisted him by narrowing him out of the war scene, so that he wouldn't get killed, so that he wouldn't be killed. And so he left. So Adazi won the war, came back, rejoiced in Afo Square, in our sacred square, Afo, over victory. After the celebration, they now decided to go home, because then in those days, from the stories we were told, they don't go to their homes with the charms they use in the war front, because those charms used to be very strong. It could, according to the story, it could affect their livestock, it could affect their children. So they used to keep it in where they called Omaago, that is isolated area in the bush. So by the time they finished celebrating, he decided to go and keep the charms where they used to keep it. We still have the place till date. When he got there, did the normal sacrifice, and then kept his charms there, he turned to come back home. On his way home, he did not know that the same Okoludo, the war leader of Akweze he saved, hid himself, knowing that he would go to keep his charms there, and he will be coming back without any protection. He went and hid himself somewhere around the bush. Immediately he finished, on his way coming back, he shot him from the back. Okoludo shot my great-grandfather that saved him from the back, from the behind. And then he turned and saw him. He pointed at him, according to the story, with a left hand, and told him that it will not be well with him, that he is Nwadiana, and he saved him. Because by rights, that he is not supposed to shed his blood, and that himself, Okoludo, is not supposed to shed his own blood, that he saved him in the war front when his soldiers were defeated. And then he went behind him and shot him, knowing that he has dropped what he goes to war with. After that, he left. So Ezenne came back home alive, but sick, with the wound of the bullet. So he got sick. And in our town, then, in the days when Igbo land used to observe sacredness, there was a day Anunze dies in every town. Anunze cannot die any other day apart from that same day. And in Adazi-Nnukwu, Anunze can only die on Afo day. And if it is not on Afo day, then something, if Anunze dies a day that is not on Afo day, then something is wrong. They will go to find out what went wrong, why he died. Maybe he committed something, or maybe something went wrong. So it got so serious that they believed that at a point he was going to die. So on that certain Afo day, his cabinet men came and surrounded him, the Nzes. The members of Nze, they came and surrounded him, waiting for him to give up. But he did not. Then suddenly something happened. Ojiako entered and looked at his father and called him. Father, is this wound, this bullet going to kill you? He couldn't talk because he was in pains. He called him again. Father, if this wound, this bullet wound that Okoludo gave you, kills you, that he, Ojiako, his son, will bury him with the head of Okoludo. Immediately his father got up, tried to get up, started calling him, telling him that if you are not up to looking for what happened to your father, what happened to your father might happen to you. But as he was saying it, Ojiako had already left. He left, and then he knew those that were the friends of his father, those that knows what his father knows. His right-hand men. One is Abo from Adazi-Nnukwu. The other one is Onwazombe, called Onwazombe from Obeledu Okata. So he went to their sons. He could not go to those men because they are men like his fathers. But he knows their sons. They were friends. So he went to Abo's son, told him what he needed, went to Obeledu, our neighboring town, to his father's friend's house, called his own son too, and told him what he wanted as well. And what did he tell them? That they should go and sacrifice the charms that their father uses to go to war. That he want them to accompany him to go and kill Okoludo that shot his father. And that was what happened. They all went, did the sacrifice. He did his own, took his father's charm. Abo did his own, his father's own, took his own father's charm. Onwazombe's son did his own, took his father's charm, and they moved into the bush. And Okoludo was a man who lived in the bush, in the Ago, alone, not married, no children, no relative living with him. He lives alone. So they went there. The aim was to study, to know when they will get where his weak point is, so that they know how to strike. They stayed there for 4 days. Within that 4 days, they then discovered that there was a very particular market days when his girlfriend comes to visit. And then they discovered he had 4 dogs that stays at the 4 corners of his compound. And then they waited for another market day. That same market day, the woman came again. And then that was the day they striked. They strike that day. What they did was they killed a bush chicken, gave it chance, prepared it with chance, as they have learned from their fathers, and then climbed up and threw it inside the compound, and those dogs ate it. What it meant was they will be watching and they will not bark.